I do too.
One freezing cold today, in my bones.
Yeah,
And I get home to put a sweater on.
Wait, yeah.
There's no heat in my
Dry out,
office
it
today.
got real cold real fast.
There's no heat in my office today.
Oh, that's
There's no heat in your office?
Oh, really?
No, it was like around 2 o'clock, all of a sudden I noticed it was getting colder. And the facilities manager sent out an email saying, we're having problems with the heat, but you should be okay at 4:30. But I'm right next to a window and I was freezing. I hadn't eaten dinner yet. Anyway, are we in session?
Yep, I just, let me just make sure that this is working. We're on now. Right? Hello? Okay, we're good.
That I move to approve the January 6th and March 3rd minutes as distributed by Dan.
So Vin emailed and sent some amendments. They're just
Well, I just
typos. and
typos,
stuff.
there was no
So
minor stuff, so.
maybe you just move them, unless you want to see them, just move them.
Guys, that's why I sent them to you.
All right, then I move to approve as amended by Ben.
Yes, I second that motion.
Okay, I guess that makes it unanimous.
Speaking of minutes, I guess I could take minutes for tonight, huh?
Yeah. Well, at least we're up to March now.
I know, I'm still, I did a few and then I
There are
missed.
some boards and
Good
holidays
lights.
that have not approved minutes for like 4 years.
Oh, that's awful.
And I have a meeting every week for the Board of Assessors.
Yeah.
They're approved the next week.
Same thing with me. I meet with my commissioners every 2 weeks. So I do the minutes.
Yeah, so do I. I do them right after we meet at 5 o'clock on Tuesday nights till 6:30. If from 6:30 to 7, we work late Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Before I go home on Tuesday night, I do the minutes.
Yeah, I have mine done, because I just had a meeting, past Tuesday, so I'll send them out Friday. But I sent them to the board, and I've got one of them who, English professor, so he does fine to home.
I'll get up, eventually. Over this
You want him to sign the bills?
next month, I gotta go through them. Oh, yeah.
So how far are we behind with the minutes?
Because it's the calendar year,
Okay.
so.
April, May, June, August, September, October.
So I recommended just bulletize this stuff, or, you know.
Oh, yeah, I just,
You know, you don't have to get, unless it's real recent, or if it's a major discussion.
When I do it,
Bulletize
it's
stuff,
like,
unless it's major stuff.
when I do it, it's, board discussed this issue. John made a motion, seconded by Mary, unanimous vote.
Yeah, that's all I do, yeah. Pass unanimously, I do, unanimous vote. Yeah, same guy.
Well, it's funny, they're so used to me taking them. They now go, you love this, and they now go, oh, we're going to an executive session. Kevin, we took a roll call vote, right? I still, it's a reflect everything. They all say the same thing.
Yeah.
And once in a while, I switch it backwards.
Yeah, some of my members, they're like you, Kat, they serve on boards for the, because I'm a
Yeah.
district, it's separate from town government, but they also serve on town boards too. So I got capital budget committee.
But I mean, it's funny, they're so used to it now. The chairman will go, Kevin, you're gonna have the minutes reflect our votes. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then when they get them, one guy said, hey, I see you had me making the motion slip.
Yeah, right.
Because normally the vice chair makes the motion.
Yeah.
Just remember, it's the vice chair makes the motion, the clerk seconds. And I'm really the clerk, but the junior
Yeah.
member seconds, and it's always unanimous. Unless somebody's out.
Right.
But the chairman sometimes makes motions, and you can't have that in the minutes. So I tell her, why just switch them around? So one day for fun, I had them all over the place. I don't care.
No.
I mean, there's one guy who doesn't need 3 minutes.
Actually, my guys are great. 2 of the 3 review them and they're sticklers, but it's good. It keeps me on my toes.
Well, I now have a second person in my office reviewing, because our chairman is a grammar nut.
Yeah.
And she one day said, that word should be before that word. I go, no, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't split infinitives. She goes, but it doesn't read right. I said, but it's grammatically correct.
Yeah. All right, Dan, here we go.
Budget, Dan.
Did somebody make a button?
just for the recording, so you got the monthly Whitewater bill, another round of PFAS for town hall, and then the second quarter billing commitment that was signed. So
What's the word on the budget?
budgeting, let me just, hold on, keep here. So I figured, I haven't officially heard anything from the town yet, but I was trying to get on top of things, because usually what happens is we get an email saying, hey, we want all your stuff in like 3 days, and we don't.
And the board doesn't get to see it till after we do it.
So, or, or they have to wait for us.
Yeah.
So I went through it this week and just, I mean, it's nothing crazy. On the town side, let me actually, where's Teams? Let me screen share. Window. Hopefully this is most visible.
Yep.
So this is fiscal 23, and then 24 is what we're looking at. So the salary line goes up for COLA. We may run out of money in this line in 23. They're gonna have to do a transfer because I think it got left off the stuff they fixed at town meeting, but it's gonna be over by like $20, so not a big deal. Contractor services, I just bumped it up 1,000. It seems to be going up around that, but we usually spend every penny of it.
Yep.
Public water tests I left at 4. Hydrant fees I left. Oh, so the public water tests we increased because of PFAS.
Yep.
Hopefully with the new well, that will all go away, but I would leave it until we know for
Is that
sure.
hooked up now?
So, well, here's where, well, you want to do that separate, or
Yeah,
that's a whole update.
let's stay on the budget.
Hydrant fees is the same because it's contractual, and then if we want to try again, this 50/50 on the hydrant thing,
So you've already got a cost estimate for that for 24?
for which,
Oh, that comes from Mobile, right?
Yeah.
no, it doesn't change,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hydrant fees,
yeah.
knock on wood.
Because I was gonna
Then it's
say,
in a-
as we're talking about some of these lines, I'm seeing some major increases, in some of these items.
Yeah, no, this is the, like, there's like a quarterly charge for the privilege of renting the hydrants.
Right.
Yeah, we got told on anything we contract to stay at 7% for inflation. We got our budget package yet this morning in Holliston.
Yeah.
And the town administrator said level service, but add between 7 and 10% for inflation. Check with your vendors.
I'm looking at like a 50% increase in last year's budget for me. Energy costs through the roof.
Yeah. I mean,
Cost of some,
rent.
cost of some of the materials through the roof, but they're not,
Everything's through the roof.
Sorry, I'll do the math. So, all right, so that's 11.2, so 11.5 is probably good. And then I don't know, so this would be a new line. This is that fire hydrant. We were trying to propose it.
Well, I think we ought to keep going for
Can't
it.
hurt.
At some point, they gotta realize that we're carrying
Right.
for the town. I mean, hey, we were the guys who got into the enterprise fund, and so we're not nipping out of the town budget anymore. But for the public part of it, they should be paying it.
Yeah, so this, we asked for this, but it was effectively zero to get it. And then the meters, I just left alone. It's just, that's not part of.
I don't know why we just don't take it out of enterprise and put it in the public. And say that's where it belongs.
We could take, well, so I mean, I don't know, I think at the time, I think it was pre-enterprise, I thought it was the, I don't know why it was done that way. But,
Remember the guy in the FinCom, I don't know if he's still on there, came to us and said, why is that in the enterprise fund and why aren't we splitting that with you? Because the idea is the town uses it for firefighting.
right,
It's a benefit to the town.
And we don't get reimbursed for that water use
Yeah.
by the town.
I mean, it's a little different with the enterprise fund too, so it's not as big of a deal.
But the 50%, I think we ought to just stick it in there and
Yeah.
let them challenge it.
I'm with you.
I mean, the whole idea was one guy in the FinCom, I think it's now 3 years ago,
Yeah.
said it didn't make sense to have it all in the enterprise fund because the highway department uses it to load the sweeper, the fire department uses it. And, you know, if there's a fire, they use as much as they want. We don't get reimbursed by that.
No,
So they should just automatically pay for half of it.
yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah. So what are you doing with that, Dan? Is it 50%?
Yeah, so that's this number. The full number is 6,500. So this is half of it.
Okay,
I just,
See if we get it.
I just leave it there and say, you guys asked us to do this. It's not a new request.
so Dan, I want to back up on the meters. You flatline the meters.
No, so this is a special article.
That's
It's
what's
just here because I stuck it in this sheet.
Okay,
We don't get, this is money that's in a bank, we don't touch it. That's money that should be covering the remaining costs of meter replacements. Mostly
Which-
salary this time, paying somebody to do the
Which
work.
hopefully should be done by the next budget year.
yeah.
Yeah,
We've had this now.
Because the reason why I say this, it's a
16.
big increase in meters right now, too.
okay, I
We have more
believe
meters.
we have all, like 99% of the physical meters to do the work. But we're missing, most of what's left is paying somebody to swap them out.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oakdale quit and then we hit COVID.
Right, yeah.
But I believe.
So I mean, if you look at the date, we've been carrying this.
I can't,
We
I
started
don't
this-
have my glasses, Cal, I can't see it from.
Okay, we started it in 2016
Yeah,
and 6 years later, we don't have the 150 meters swapped out.
yeah, understood, yeah.
We had a
And the meters are gonna be good 15 to 20 years. So.
Yeah.
No, we had a surplus, so we bought
Okay,
all the parts. I think the only thing we're missing is more 3/4 than I thought, but.
okay. So the only,
But it-
and we only have one outstanding master bid that's gonna be installed, right? That's the one. we're gonna-
Both of them, which we could talk about, but
Yeah, okay.
I do have some news.
But in terms of the budget, it looks like you've got everything covered, so.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not anything, maybe this is just basically normal, I mean, and this is just the town side.
This is the town side, and our side can get fudged around as long as it balances
right,
out.
yeah.
And I don't mean, for
I know
anybody
what you're saying,
watching
Kevin.
this, I don't mean fudged, I mean, we
Yeah.
can raise and lower things
Yeah.
within it, but on the town side, it looks like we're done.
Just want, I don't want
The other side of the argument, if you will, is that according to our contract with Hopeville, they can only fight fires from those fire hydrants in the area which is part of the water system.
you are technically correct.
You're technically correct, but when the house was burning down on North Avenue, they ran shuttles up to Route 16, loaded up and went up to fight that fire. Of course, that's 5 or 6 years ago. But,
And the other thing I mentioned, but I certainly don't want to see it in a minute, is the number of fire hydrants that is actually operable and the number of fire hydrants that exist as your physical entity are not exactly the same.
this is true. But in reality, are you gonna tell somebody whose house burning down that the fire department can't use that hydrant because their house is outside the system? You can't do it. Plus, I don't think morally it's the right thing to do. If you know, if Dan's house is burning down on Providence Road, I'm sure Dan would want those guys to find the nearest hydrant.
Oh, no, yeah.
So, Yeah.
I mean, you know, and nobody understands the subtlety of, you know, the 150 zone, you know, if you're not on Dudley, 16 or our area outlet, I mean, yeah, you know, somebody's house is burning down and we just say, sorry, it's not in the contract.
Yeah. 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 Well, your house on the ground.
As long as we're talking about fire hydrants, the strange operation across from Gasco seems to have moved or something.
Ross from Gasco.
And the trucking handle firm that keeps running over the fire hydrant,
Oh, no, there's flat out still there.
Flat out's still there.
and it's still there.
I think it was a big, like, auto carrier.
Yeah, that knocked it down, so we just covered it up.
We just kind of gave up on it.
Yeah, we
There's
never
one
put it
across
back.
the street. I know I messaged you and I'm gonna hit the fan still, but someday, we probably gotta pay somebody to fix it. There's another one too, we gotta fix, but, you know, add to the list.
You know, I mean.
It works.
You know, we also have to stay within our budget. You know, people keep knocking things down or breaking them. Unfortunately, the general public doesn't understand that when you only have 150, whatever it is, 3, 5 users, we're very limited on what we can do. You really need to come in and just get it paper.
Yeah, like you say, we're really limited. You got 150 connections.
Your predecessor on the committee in the last meeting, said he wished we just abolish the thing and make everybody get a well. Of course, he showed up all 4 meetings during his 3-year term. And then tells us he wanted to abolish.
Yeah, what's the average cost of putting a well in? I'd say it's gonna be between
$10,000
$5,000 and $10,000 to put a private.
Figure
It's
10.
gonna be 10 now.
Yeah,
This was 18.
Figure for a home,
and it's got to pass water quality standards, otherwise.
Well, like the regular
Otherwise,
greenhouse.
the Board of Health's not.
well, most of
concerned
them
with
have filters on
Yeah.
in town, except for the areas like over sand pits.
I mean, I bet you'd have decent water, because my parents, our well was great. I don't know,
Depends on where you are. I mean, we're
Yeah.
probably hitting it underground on the Charles. But like Colonial Estates has fantastic water. This part of town has very high iron and manganese.
Yeah.
So almost everybody is a water.
it. I know my well, we got iron and manganese over there too.
yeah.
It's most amendment.
Yeah, we got a filter system.
So you have that, but I mean, you gotta pass the well quantity and quality test just to build. And I'd say 10 grand, easy.
Yeah. Yeah, but if there's any
And
other,
then you had a whole house filter
but
system.
if there's any other type of contamination with your home filter, like VOC, follow, I'll get a
Well,
copy.
I had the,
Like these people over here on 16,
what did I have?
where they're gonna connect on to the public water supply.
Not butane, whatever they found in there.
Well, if you have, it was the NBTE, was that? From out there,
When they first drilled the well for my house on
or
Blue,
benzene you're thinking of. That's
benzene,
the other one that comes up.
there's benzene in the well.
Yeah,
Now, they didn't know if it came from the gas station here, or they went so down so far, they hit the breaker. So, because when you go down, the road across from Misco, is it Hopedale Street?
and
For
it's
us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, once you pass in Hopedale, and you round the corner going through Drapers, that whole big hill, that was their land.
Landfill, yeah.
And they put all the waste from Drapers in there for decades.
Yeah.
And, so we never knew, are they touching that level
Maybe.
or are they touching this level?
Right.
But what they did was they went down again. The first owner of the house went down another couple 100 feet and didn't hit it.
Yeah.
But the first thing, when my wife sold the house to the people, whatever came up during their test, something came up because Hopedale let them hook up immediately.
Really?
They went in with the well test and Hopedale, well, they won.
That's the thing, you couldn't tell, oh, it's 150 connect. Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to connect on.
When we have commercial users that depend on,
Sure.
like greenhouse couldn't put a public water supply, they don't have any land.
Yeah.
We used to parking lot, that's
I mean, they go out of business, but the other
it,
thing
we
is,
just couldn't do that.
I'm sure Hopedale would love it.
well, the other thing is, if you don't have a water supply, those houses are automatically condemned.
Yeah.
And if not by the local board of health, by the state. That was how we actually got Hopedale to agree to that fight, when they were still thinking it was doable to water in 16. I remember I went in there, we were somebody from the board of health who said, basically, you understand these people are gonna lose their houses because of that contamination. And the woman on the Hopedale board at the time, who up until last year was still on the board, oh, I have no idea that's gonna happen. Can you prove that? You shouldn't realize, we had some of the people living on 16 at that time didn't understand.
Yeah.
That they might have been evicted from their homes and their homes closed
Yeah,
without potable water.
yeah.
It's funny, I was looking at the Connecticut rules today. Same thing, you can't build a new house without, if you have to drill a well, you have to prove it's potable. You have to do the same as Massachusetts, you have to meet the septic rules. And there's a lake area in Connecticut, you have to show proof to the Lake Association every 2 years that you pump the septic.
No kidding, wow. But yeah, it makes sense. Water.
Anyway, so let's
water
get,
quality,
let's get back to this.
Yeah,
So the town side of the budget looks good, Dan. I think we have time on our side on the enterprise fund.
Yeah, well, so here's where we're at. I'll share. This has been an adventure, but it's all. So the budget is this last column. So basically to start off with, oh, come on. So fiscal 22, long story short, we closed the whole thing out. We had $10,772.
so you had a surplus.
Yeah, so do you remember
Yes.
last year in 21, when we thought we had 26,000, but then we ended up with zero? And it was because they instead of putting it in free cash, they put it in some debt line and
Yes,
they were gonna fix it. Well,
and they did.
they can't, right? Once you file everything, you're done.
Right.
So that money got locked away. The good news is that money then got released in this year. So instead of closing in a deficit, we did technically close in a positive, but that's it. The
That was
complete-
22.
That's fiscal 22. We ended with, but that's it. That's the retained earnings. That's everything. We have no more money.
And right now in fiscal 23, we carried that forward.
So,
Well, we had some on the two repairs.
it's a little more complicated than that. So then, in fiscal 23,
Which is what we're right now.
we had appropriated 20,000 from retained earnings. We now need to be careful. I talked to Eric about this. We have an account with 27,000 in it. We need that money. We can't, if we spend it, we have to come up with it on the revenue side.
So we can't.
Right, we have 10. So
Okay.
now, and then these are the actuals
To date.
to date in fiscal 23. So right now, we're at a surplus of 14,000 for fiscal 23.
Even with the two water main breaks?
And that's that was the 22, that's long, that's gone.
Oh, okay, that's right.
We
Yeah.
started over. So,
Well, we need to maintain that and carry it forward.
right, so on the revenue side.
Yep.
I think I left our water charges at 160. I think we were overestimating our revenue a little bit. And the
But now
issue.
the increase should cover that.
The increase was not use, it was leaks. So
Okay.
this 160 is on par with the new rate change we made. Capital
So
impact,
you just did quarter two just now, right?
right,
That's when
that,
the bill's probably like the end of this
By the way, when are the bills due?
first week of, it's usually first week of December.
Hang on, I can look it up.
Which technically is.
We're due on the 8th.
Oh, okay. So have you already read them yet?
What?
Have you already read the meters for the second quarter?
Oh, yeah, that's what you just,
That's the.
that amount of, those bills went out.
So compared to, okay.
Does she have it up yet where you can pay online?
It should be.
Because it wasn't due to the building being closed because of the well.
Yeah, the water bill should be posted. I will follow up.
The whole first weekend, they weren't available to be paid.
Yeah,
So Dan, second quarter, this current fiscal year compared to
Yeah.
last year, what's the increase?
I have to do a lot of digging. We don't have easy access to that.
Okay.
Hang on. Fiscal 22.
Well, first off, is there an increase in consumption?
Well,
So here, now I got the number.
when we made that budget increase, affect that bill,
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
41,
bill went up $60.
Yeah.
41, so fiscal, last year's second quarter commitment was $41,000 and change,
Yeah.
and this year's was 56,000 and change.
Okay.
So that's the raise.
So, yeah, it's 15,000, yeah.
I'd have to, I don't know if I pulled the
Well,
usage yet, but
Most of it, you're right. I think it was also an uptick in consumption a little bit.
it looks like our use is going up.
You
another
can use
2%.
it with the revenue? Does it show what?
No, I have to, that's in a different place,
Okay.
All right.
so I can look if you want.
So in terms of next year's budget, though, we're pretty much in shape.
So, yeah, hang on.
It
one
sounds
second.
like we're pretty solid.
Water rates and usage. I just want to see if I pulled the usage numbers, I can tell you.
It's gonna bog you down. I don't, yeah.
I don't do it by quarter, so
Yeah,
not here. Hang on, where's this?
that's one of the things I do. I'll have the actual usage,
Yeah, I just.
consumption to coincide with the dollar amount. Because that'll be the first thing, like, well, it's a rate increase, like, not necessarily, because we actually had an uptick
Mm.
in the consumption.
I should, maybe, I mean, that's a document for them, but maybe we should put the usage on that. So that, on the revenue side, yeah, so capital impact stays the same, local stays the same, fire fees go up $200 because of
Yeah.
the rate change.
Yep.
We budgeted pretty consistently now 3,200 for penalties and interest.
And we collected.
And we usually, so like today, we budgeted 1,500, we collected almost 3,000 late fees.
Good, yeah, you want to keep conservative on that.
Good.
So that has our total receipts at 204,806.
Yeah,
I have us appropriating that 10,000, right, so it's available for emergency use.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
putting it into the infrastructure fund, and this should be,
Okay.
10,772, sorry, 0.31.
Okay.
So salaries, my salary goes up because of COLA. I increased contractor services. I just did $500. Maybe we should do 1,000 here as well.
what's that fund in?
This is Whitewater, contractor expenses.
You,
So I've been going up 500 every year, but maybe.
I would call, that's usually my practice is I'll call the utilities or some of the people that we have on the contract.
They know now.
Say,
Well, you know,
what's your expected rate, what's the
it's
expected
between
cost?
two, it's tied to CPI, and it's between 2 and 7, so it's
Okay.
potentially gonna go up to full 7.
I put it at the higher
So
level.
maybe that should
I
be
would
12.5.
I put it at 7.
I'm with you, yeah. Yeah, because if you undershoot it, then we're gonna be short.
I mean, it's just,
So that's up 1,000.
Yeah.
And then this one, this is a total, so I did $50 more in postage because rates have been going up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Seems fair.
I stuck $50 in equipment maintenance, just mainly because it was bugging me that it was 6,850 instead of 6,900.
but
And then this is the other half of the hydrant valve maintenance, 3,250.
is that enough?
When we had talked to them, it was around 6,000.
Oh,
be
this
honest-
is the Hopedale thing.
No, this is the flushing the hydrants and all that. And to be honest, again, we haven't done it because it takes, you line them up and then Hopedale's has issues and then we have to wait because there's a shortage.
So bottom line, what's the overall increase from last fiscal year?
Well, so this
Or
one,
the current fiscal year, I should say.
so we're projecting our revenue. We just make it go away. Virus. We budgeted total receipts at 204, and this year we're budgeting the same.
Yeah, and that's good. Yeah.
And then on the expense side, oh, so hang on, I wasn't done with expenses yet. So 10,000 is in the emergency fund, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And purchase of water, I think we should leave at 160.
Yep.
So our total expenses are gonna be 202,000.
Do we know what
Which is
Hopedale's
decrease.
rate, do we know what Hopedale's rate increase is gonna be, or,
Yeah, that's whatever they told us.
okay, then,
It already went into effect on July 1.
okay,
I don't know off the top of my head. And then the indirect expenses. So as designed, the fiscal 24 budget leaves us with a profit of $6,200, which is kind of what we've targeted. And we usually end up doubling that.
Looks good.
so you get the revenue flat line from the current fiscal year. going into
Because
the
we
next
had-
fiscal
Because
year.
I think we owe back. So you look here, it went
Because we had too high.
130.
No, I get that.
We went way too high.
Okay, okay,
So I think the two of them are gonna catch up now.
Okay. Does that, do the selectmen actually, do they review this at all, the finance committee, do they
Finance
review this?
FinCom will review it.
The only reason why I asked that, if I'm on a FinCom, I'd be like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, did you have a rate increase last year? You're good, but you got a good answer.
They tend to defer to us anyway on this one.
Okay,
They go over the town, but the enterprise fund, they tend to just say, does it balance?
right, okay.
Because now that it's out of the town budget,
Yeah.
all they care about, does it balance? If so, we're not looking at it.
Okay,
We're only looking at the town side part of it.
Yeah.
Because really, they don't have control over this.
no, I know, but I'm not a FinCom, I don't know if FinCom is here.
I mean, you could, so like in fiscal 20, we spent almost 180,000 in purchase of water here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and the previous year was only 130.
Okay.
So I think 160, we're up to 80,000.
Yeah.
So now you double that,
Right.
that's 160. We
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
in good shape.
Yeah, and as long as
We just gotta.
this balances, they may question an item in there, but they're more concerned is,
Bottom line, yeah.
well, does it balance and is any of that hitting the town budget? And if it doesn't, they're like, okay,
Yeah, okay.
as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a bunch of calls with Eric when they were setting the tax rate. They had a whole bunch of questions. They wanted to make sure everything matched up. They wanted to justify the increase and.
So my other question, what's the percentage increase from last year's, from current fiscal budget,
For
for the bottom line?
I'm looking. Well, On expenses or revenue?
Both.
So the revenue, this probably is the wrong thing.
But the revenue just, it was flatline, so.
This formula is all.
And that's fine, because you over projected last year, so that's fine. But the bottom line on the expenses, I'm just wondering,
Give me a second, these formulas aren't, I didn't update the percentage formulas,
okay.
so I don't know.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, we should. We just, because I just keep adding columns.
Sometimes it's good to be put on the spot.
It is, yeah.
So,
I get put on the spot all the time, I mean, we can explain it, we can explain it.
I had a conversation with the town administrator in Austin today. I said, you want a level service budget? I said, but our level service budget does not allow us to do what we're supposed to do. We're already not doing certain things that we're supposed to be doing. And I said, I think if it ought to be maintain the proper service, in which case my budget goes up.
Hey, how are you guys doing over there as far as staffing goes?
For what?
Retiring, is it tough to fill positions over there?
No problem.
Okay.
We do.
We're not either.
In senior positions, like the town treasurer collector is retiring after 30 years.
Yeah.
We only have 3 people apply.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call them the,
Yeah, the 18.
I would not. It's a good way of phrasing it. I would have expected a lot more people to apply for a town that size and a salary that size.
Yeah.
I was kind of stunned at the quality of the applications. The quantity was only 3.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But the quality was not good either.
Yeah, so I'm doing great on that. I have 2 people retiring. I have 2 people from other communities, and they're terrific. But the reason why I asked, my lab was in Needham. Needham's a revolving door right now.
Well,
And the response is, well, every town's going through, and I was talking.
well, Needham, you
And I
got,
said to Michelle, I said, not every of the towns going through what you're going through.
oh yeah, they are. In the finance offices, they are. There's nobody,
Oh, she's in finance, but her office, but okay, it's other town departments,
there's no,
like IT,
there's no bench.
DPW, yeah.
Well, I try to tell people why. Okay, you graduate from college. The average person graduated from college today, let's just pick an average debt, and I'm told this is too low, but I'm gonna say 30 grand. Okay? You gotta pay the loans off, you wanna get out of your parents' basement and live with your friends. And private industry's paying 70, 80 in the finance field.
I know, I think you were high on that, when the town's paying you out of college.
So,
Municipal government, municipalities are probably in the mid-20s.
no.
You don't think so?
We're up in the, for my assistant, we're in the 50s to 60s.
Oh, yeah,
We dramatically upped everything
yeah.
in certain positions.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I got somebody with 30 years' experience to backfill my job when I got promoted. We got no bench under that. So by the time I go in a couple of years, my job is to train her.
Hmm.
Okay, she's got to find her replacement. There's nobody within the town.
Yeah.
And then you got to go out and look. I mean, I got her as a fluke.
And it's like you said.
We had a
and
mutual
these kids getting
friend.
out of college today.
We had a mutual friend who happened to say to me, I was bitching to going, I don't know how you get somebody. And she said, so-and-so down the Cape got passed over for the 2nd time in a row. It should have gotten it. And I called that person and said, well, I'm going to have an opening posted on Monday.
Yeah.
She just sent me your resume right up the table.
Oh, that's great.
And she doesn't mind the hour commute each way.
Yeah,
Because she's guaranteed to replace me
yeah,
if she does a good job.
yeah. And so she got a nice salary. Yeah. So she lives down the Cape, she's gonna commute on.
Bridgewater area.
Oh, okay. But she's on this side of it, yeah.
Yeah, she's on the side of the bridge, but what you're having is, I mean, for the treasure collector's job, we had a 70-year-old guy who's been doing private financing for the last 20 years, hasn't been in a municipal desk in 35 years. And to me, he wants to, order the staff to do everything, sit there and we're a hands-up town. Another guy had a different job every 2 years, and people thought he's either incompetent in getting out before they catch him, or he's job hopping to try to find something he likes. So they didn't want him. And then we had a guy who was in the financial services sector for a long time. He's been in municipal for 2, and they picked him. And I predict he's gonna last less than 2 years. Because he's not a hands-on guy either.
Yeah. Well,
And, I mean, you know, I spend my day today on Excel all day. And writing a budget document, writing this stuff, and I did a job review, and then we had 2 staff, you know, we had a meeting with the town administrator, and it just goes on, and people don't realize, you know, I'm a department head who works for them. You know, it's like here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Jean Berthold's the assessor, she works her butt off at it. The treasurer collector is working her butt off at it. Everybody is. We don't have 30 people. You know, this is Boston where the assessor's office has 100 people.
Yeah, I'm taking 2-3 years to retire for me, and nobody in staff wants my job. I've got people outside that are really interested in taking my position, but yeah, it's fine. It's hard finding people in-house that want the responsibility.
Well, it's funny, when I told them I didn't take it for the money, I took it for the challenge.
Yeah.
I replaced somebody who'd been there for 27 years, and basically the office was staffed and technologized for, I'd say, 20 years ago.
Right, yeah, so you brought it up.
I want to bring it up to modern era.
Yeah, brought it up to me.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's been done the same way, because that's the way she was gonna do it. Just my assistant come in and says, well, you know, we did this way.
Yeah.
And you look at it going, man, that's a lot easier.
That's why it's nice, man. Yeah, good, fresh ideas.
Right, and I just say, roll it out.
Yeah.
I get the clerks, I said, she's gonna roll it out, we're doing it her way for now.
Right. That's terrific.
Anyway, let's
So
go back.
pulling up track, yeah.
So the expense budget is decreasing or increasing by revenue is increasing by 0.11%. And expenses are decreasing by 7.6%.
Wow. See, that's a red flag to me. How can the expenses be going down
What is,
when we're kind
Because-
of,
why is it
when
negative?
inflation's been going nuts?
Because in 2023, we budgeted a total expense of
You know, what you're saying is real, it's great, but
um,
you think the expenses are gonna go down.
oh, it's because of this emergency fund, that's why, because we went from 27,000 to 10,000.
So as long as you can explain it,
Right.
and that's the thing.
So it's in
All
fact
counts.
not going down,
And actually.
Right, yeah.
it's being
You
corrected.
you got one big item there, you made a correction
Well, then,
last year.
and if you get rid of that, it's, now it's a 5% increase.
Okay, perfect.
So that's a weird item to put in our budget because it's really, and that was one of the things I said to Eric to say to the state is it's not like, that's not money we're gonna spend.
Right.
That's just getting the money so it's available if we need it. We don't wanna spend that money,
Right,
because if we spend that money, we're having a bad day.
okay.
So yeah, if you get rid of that number, if we don't spend any of that, so, we spent, hang on, in FY 22,
Well,
we
That's right,
put.
you don't have to get into it.
well, in reality,
We spent 12,000.
in reality, we should create formally a stabilization fund and transfer that money in it every year.
The only thing though, is I think we have that by default with it, retained earnings.
Yeah,
If it's in one of those funds, we can't touch it without one of the 2 town meetings a year.
that's,
Yeah, it's gonna be appropriated, tell me, yeah.
Ideally, we build up a large profit and then we would just appropriate 10 or 20,000 each year. The rest would just be retained earnings. It can just stay there.
yes.
I don't think it needs to be a separate fund unless we want to really.
No, but
set aside.
at some point though,
We just haven't. done
we should
that.
see that money growing every year so that if we have a major repair, it's there.
We can plan on it,
Well, we
have
were-
that supplement, maybe something we're gonna borrow.
We were on par to have 55,000 and then we basically blew through a bunch of it with this
Yeah.
leak.
Of course, the other thing to put this into perspective is if we wind up doing any construction, reconstruction, additions, whatever, you're talking millions.
Oh, yeah. Multi-million. It's funny to say
So
that.
this almost $50,000 may sound like a lot of money.
Oh,
I remember saying that to the selectmen when we were talking about this water system study that's going on.
it's not,
You
but
know,
from
building a
my
tank, a well,
perspective,
and all that, multi-million-dollar project.
from my perspective, even the leaks that we repaired prior to the enterprise fund, we would be going to the town meeting requesting the entire town pay to fix that.
Yeah.
And the idea was to get away from that.
But the thing is, with only 150 people paying into the system, we're paying it
Well,
at already a high rate anyways.
Let's,
It's gonna be really tough to build.
Let's
up
be
that.
realistic. The only way we're gonna expand the system here, if we find a source, is to ARPA money for grants.
Yeah. Because
the idea of levying a betterment tax on people as it crosses by them who don't use it,
I know.
people who don't understand the law, you're gonna have an uprising.
Oh, yeah, no question.
I mean, just hypothetically, suppose you find a well in the land behind the senior center, but you only want to supply it to the guys on 16. But you run that main past people's houses. The theoretical way of paying for that is betterment fees, whether you tie in or not.
Yeah.
But do you want to saddle somebody with a 20-year betterment fee debt if they're not tied into it? I don't.
Yeah, then it's less attractive, especially if you're not gonna let them tie in.
So here, this is actually how I would present it.
Well,
So for the,
yeah,
for the fiscal 23 budget, we were gonna have 27, we actually only have 10 because that's all that was available to appropriate. And then for the fiscal 24 budget, we actually, it's a balanced budget, so we put 17 in an emergency fund with the goal of that entire 17 staying as a profit most of the year. So now it balances,
Right,
it's an increase, our expenses are up 3%.
but hopefully the following year, that 17 is 20-something.
Right.
And the year after that, it's a higher 20-something, and the year after that, it's 30-something. You don't want to see it disappear. That's the whole idea that 1250 a quarter thing is to build that up.
Well, you know, thanks to the 50,000 from the state, so that's $50,000 worth of, other than the meters, we have
That didn't
parts.
come out of it.
So the next time we have a leak, it might not be so much because we just gotta pay the company to do the work. We
Right,
have
and it did
parts.
not come out of there because it was a grant.
Um, So that's good news.
All
So that would be, yeah, so that would be the enterprise budget, and then when that comes around, we can submit it and
They look fine to me.
formally vote on the two of those.
As of this point, I don't have a problem, do you?
not at all. I think you did a good
Yeah,
job, explained it well. Do you wanna make a motion that we pass
I'll
it?
make a motion, we adopt the two budgets as presented by Dan.
I'll second the motion.
Sounds unanimous.
That way, when it's submitted date, you just submit it.
Okay, good. Sanitary surveys, can't wait to hear this.
So how we doing?
How do we do?
So the park one was great. She had the only, we gotta put a smooth nose sample tap somewhere, but,
Did they give you the report already?
oh yeah. We get the report, no, the only, like, immediate thing is they want,
What did the survey?
new people, Victoria something, and then there was some girl with her who was shadowing. They're all new.
Okay.
So they were good.
They're not having trouble hiring.
They, well, I actually, I think I'm struggling, but shoot, so they,
They were on the staff, though. EDP, yeah.
But they've had a turnover.
Yeah.
Like the
But they
guy,
pushed a lot of people out because of COVID, you know, too.
well, the guys I deal with at DCR, all the forestry rangers for forest land and farmland.
Yeah.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
They have half of
And
them.
when the governor declared that if you didn't have your vaccine, you were gonna lose your job.
Yeah.
I know DEP lost a few people.
And you know what happened? They just-
Oh, did they really? I didn't know that.
More than half the people that were let go, there's the tiny little article in the Globe about a month ago.
Really?
Half the people let go were brought back and retroactively paid because they couldn't fill the jobs.
Really?
And they basically got told, you're
And they
gonna
got
lose,
retro.
you're gonna lose the lawsuit. So they brought them all back with retro.
Oh, my God.
What do you think they submitted a $3 billion supplemental budget at the end?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Wow.
Besides, more here is. So Memorial's okay?
So no violations, we had one deficiency, we got a sample tap. And then also they were concerned that they don't want us to fertilize the infield of the baseball field at Pizzella because it's in zone 1 of the well. We actually didn't fertilize anything last year because market crashed and we couldn't get anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't fertilize it.
Yeah, so no big deal, and then they recommend moving the dumpsters, which I think we're gonna look at,
Okay,
so that's all set.
senior center?
The senior center, they sent us like a self-assessment,
Yep.
which I will follow up, I assume Whitewater handled it. They didn't even bother coming out, so they had no concerns there.
Okay.
We haven't gotten a report. Library, I've heard nothing.
Now let's get to the big one.
Town hall, well, so the town hall they were gonna do it, and then the well all crapped out. So they're actually coming in a few weeks, and he's
Oh, the new one.
for this, just in general, so mostly what the survey looks at is all the plumbing.
Yep.
The well really is irrelevant. They're looking at all, so they're gonna come and go through everything. I do think there may be at least some recommendations in that one. They have a backflow preventer next door that
Yeah.
we need to, I get to talk to him, we need to have checked every year. I don't really even know why they have a backflow preventer.
Because in the new building, they mandated it.
Yeah, but,
It's in the building.
so it's in the town budget, but
It's
that's
in
something
the,
we
it's in the
get.
plumbing code for a new building.
They have 7 bathrooms over there. Oh
Yeah.
my, we would turn all the water off, and what a mess.
Well, yeah, they had the prison cell.
Oh, no, you have 2 men's and women's on the public side, then you have men's and women's on the private side.
Yeah.
Then upstairs, you have a men's and women's locker room, so there's your 6, then you have the 2 cells. Why does they couldn't just have 1 bathroom in the back, whatever,
Oh, you can't.
it's so bizarre. But anyway, so the deal with the town
Well,
hall,
the locker rooms are not just bathrooms, they're showers.
that makes sense, but they have 4 bathrooms on that main floor. 2 for the public and then 2 more in the back.
Which drives the size of the septic system.
So, yeah, well,
So they request a look at the backflow program or?
so the survey for the public system, we had, I think it's coming up in the next few years.
Okay.
I think
It's every
one's on
3
every
years.
5 and one's on every 3. Here, give me a second, I'll tell you when we last did it.
Okay.
Pretty much consistently, 18, 19, 20, 21, I think 24.
Okay.
I don't have the 21 report in here. Oh, water system, 2020. This is it.
Oh, they're not doing, okay. All right.
I think I put that date. Yeah, 20, they did it December, so 20, so.
Okay.
So it should be coming up next year. Consistently, we haven't had any major issues with the main system.
Yeah.
We do need to, and I haven't had time to talk to the guy yet, I think we need to do another, survey of cross connections beyond, they go to every commercial
Required
property.
survey every 5 years.
He mentioned that to me, so we probably need to have that done this year,
Right.
when he does them. Because they just have the 3 or 4 day tasks.
Actually, and then the other way to do it too, it's hard because, you're running the show as well as other things that go on, so it's hard for you to manage everything.
It's cross.
But the plum,
5 hours a week,
yeah,
I looked at it, it's a ton.
but the plumbing inspector should be coordinating, anybody who pulls a plumbing permit, especially on commercial buildings.
There, so in,
He should be coordinating that work with you, saying, hey, Dan, you may want to look at these plans, because by law.
in the
And I-
permitting system,
Yeah.
every property on town water has been flagged.
Okay.
Anytime you pull a plumbing permit on a building with town water, it comes to us to
Okay.
say, hey, this is happening.
Just so you're aware of
We
it,
can-
because if
You know,
they're doing something that requires
We can look into it.
some kind of a
If the
back.
L retires, make sure that continues.
It's in the software.
Okay,
That's the beauty of being the one who's setting up the software, is I put that in.
okay, good.
No.
Dan's also our IT director.
Same with the store.
Let me point out that our charter doesn't say anything about sewers.
I think when that study gets done, I brought it up at the meeting. A year and a half ago, I wrote the draft, or 2 years ago, I wrote the draft legislation when they started talking about that. That would have been through the legislature, and they named us the Water and Sewer Committee. And we got shot down by Kim and Company that it was premature. I still have the legislation, I checked. It basically says our role under the statute, which has changed from water commission to water and sewer.
Yeah, Yeah.
Because basically, the know-nothings running this town think miraculously if we get sewers that they can handle. You need a legal entity that's chartered with doing that. My feeling is, when the study gets all done and they decide where they're gonna go, the current legislative session ends on December 31st and the new one begins January 1. I might just give it to Brian Murray and say file it and not tell him.
Yeah.
You can always tell him to stop it. Or just tell the selectmen, we're gonna have Brian file it as a backup.
I think it's a good call.
Because it's a local bill, it takes anywhere from 12 to 16 months. So if you file it in January,
Yeah, it won't be until the spring,
our means
year and a
tested,
half later.
our means tested assessor exemption took 16 months to the day.
Wow.
And so if you talk about 16 months, filing date is January 19th, I think, or 20th. You talk about 16 months, we're in 2024, December 24. Which is about the time to try to figure out what they want to do here.
I was gonna say, yeah, with the funding that,
And that ARPA
That's
money
out
has
there,
to be
another one.
committed by
Right.
the end of 24.
Yeah.
And spent by 26.
Yeah.
So we'd be right in line, but I think we need to meet with the select board in January and tell them, we're filing this.
Yeah.
It'd be better if you guys voted to file it, but it's time. If you're looking for sewer out of the study, you better create the body to do it.
but the report's out at the end of this calendar year, right?
No.
Yeah, so I was gonna,
I was gonna,
I thought they got the money to expand it.
my understanding was they started the study knowing that it was a $300,000 study and basically said, we're gonna try for this grant. If we don't get the grant, we have access to ARPA, but.
And they got the grant.
Yeah. My understanding is this study is supposed to be completed around the end of the year into January, and we should have some final presentation at that point. I have not heard anything in a while.
because I'm just wondering,
I should follow.
because
Interesting
they're gonna,
enough-
they're gonna come to us, or to select,
Or to select
Yeah.
it.
or to select.
They'll have another one of those
With a draft
groupings.
report.
Yeah,
And I would imagine they're gonna give us the opportunity to look at it, too, because we,
That's a good point.
we ought to be able to review the draft before they give it to us.
oh, no question.
Can
'Cause
you
we
contact
were-
Jack or I'll
You
contact
could.
Jack?
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask him to contact Jack Hunter, I will.
yeah,
But I wanted to ask him, interesting enough, they sent us an email that, well, we got the second part of the grant. The second part of the grant was buried in the economic development bill, which hadn't been passed at the time we were told we had it. Well, what it was it got included in the House request, but it wasn't signed by the governor. We didn't have it until the week before the election, when the legislature came back to session and rushed that thing through with no debate. And the reason why is, all the guys who had competition, if you read that bill through, which I had to, because there's something that affects assessors in it.
Yeah.
There was a goodie package for every city in town of everybody up for reelection in there. And 1 week before the election, they got to go and go, hey, this, I did that. That's why they came back and said to pass it. And our money was in there.
so Jack,
So I'm gonna-
is Jack been communicating with you as far as?
So I was gonna say, I have not heard anything since we had that meeting.
Well, I happen to have.
I'm gonna say
with
with the
the
next-
cards. Remember, they gave you the cards to.
I got his email too, I
Well,
got.
I just email Jack and say, hey, just checking in, what's next, we haven't heard anything.
Well, I might send Jack a note that says the board would like to review the study prior to being formally submitted.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
And,
It's, I like Jack, but it's almost like,
Well, they're in the process of securing the plans for his predecessor and work on that, and I think he's got,
successor.
yeah. sorry.
success again.
I did hear that,
Yeah, he's gonna supervise the successor part.
right, that's the plan, It's like
Okay.
he'll stay on for another year,
Part-time.
so they can shadow him.
Okay,
But
So
we should follow, because I haven't heard anything as to what's going on.
yeah.
I mean, he needs to be told, do we all agree that that's the will of the board? We want to review it prior to being submitted to the public?
We do.
Because I don't want to see this thing have errors in it or things that are
Right.
impossible from our standpoint.
Yeah, because we provided information and I want to make sure whatever we provided is
Yeah.
correct.
As I keep telling people, we're the guys that affects.
Yeah. And
If
we're
you
the
wanna
ones
do
that-
anything in there, you gotta have to go through us.
Yeah.
And I have a funny feeling they're just gonna steamroll.
Yeah.
And at the end, go, oh, don't we need these guys and say, you're gonna approve this, right? No.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I just saw it today, too, I didn't even think to ask him. But
To me, it's a very important thing. I mean, that's why I was very upset at the beginning that it was going on without us even being invited and knowing about it.
I don't think it's because of Jack.
It wasn't because of Jack.
Yeah.
It's because of the select board direction.
And the town manager.
Please don't give her that title. They gave her the title of assistant, but in reality, since we have no charter, in reality, she's a jumped up secretary. She has none of the town administrator's powers whatsoever.
So she's like, she's not a town manager, she's a town administrator.
Without the powers
Without the
that
powers,
town
right.
administrators have.
Right, yeah.
Because in reality, the old title was administrative assistant,
So she's more like an executive secretary for the selectmen.
not even,
Not even.
no, executive secretary under the law has its own powers.
Right.
She is the administrative assistant to the board of selectmen and can only do what they give, but she cannot appoint people on her own. They delegate things to her that give her power, but under state law, she is in reality a secretary.
Is she still working 100% from home? Yeah, you know.
No comment.
Just to say,
I just wish she's now been here, what, 8 years, 7 years?
I think it's, when did she start?
It's at least 7.
14.
Okay, so it's 8 years. She has yet to learn any Massachusetts laws.
I wonder if, did they give her a car allowance to drive back and forth to work?
She has a car.
Oh, she's like, oh.
She has Ernie Horn's.
No, she's driving that unmarked SUV or the unmarked sedan that Blanchett had for a while.
Oh, she now got the sedan and not the SUV?
The SUV is toast. They might even auction it off at this point. It was having problems. And then for some reason, Donnie was driving around in this little unmarked sedan, but then I think,
She gets
So
the
why
salary,
why are tax dollars being spent on a vehicle?
she gets the car and the gas is paid for. And she gets a stipend for her cell phone.
And not even coming back and forth to work. That's always the tax dollars.
Well, I'm not afraid to say it live on camera, the whole budget fiasco last year
No, I know, it was embarrassing, yeah.
wasn't an Excel issue, it was a her issue. There's certain people provide her info every year, but she chose to ignore it based on who provided it. And then when she went away to Florida for a month to do the budget, she didn't have that info with her, so it was left out of the budget, and that's where all the budget mistakes were.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And it all got
That makes
fixed up.
sense.
I quite honestly am surprised the taxpayers of this town put up with somebody getting the day before the election, they renewed her contract with no debate, not on the agenda. Now, I don't know about you, but there's more corruption in little towns than big towns.
Oh, they were, yeah.
I've given up because, I've reached the age where it's like, do I really want to,
Take on the fight, yeah, yeah.
do I want to do that when I'm running, I'm running a department in a much bigger town?
Mm.
And I gotta make that thing work.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Like
know,
you said.
on the other board I serve on, I have a battle to fight every day.
Right, yeah.
Like why was somebody shoved down the basement for no reason?
It's all right, my other half, she likes to take on those battles. I don't know if it's not Michelle, she. Anyways,
No, that's a battle I will not give up on because we have to do that. So what do we have left? Update our water sewer study, we heard nothing, then we're done.
well, before we skip, so just, you asked about the town hall well, we skipped all that. So where we're at, the new well is done, it's drilled, it's 400 feet deep. We are now, McClure is in the process of, they have to do a 48-hour pump test. Then they gotta wait another 24
So you're
hours.
still not connected?
No, so the water is turned, at this point, DEP gave us an emergency provision
So you can
to
flush.
turn the
but you
water
can't
on to
drink.
flush the toilets. We literally had to remove the handles from every valve under every sink so that no member of the public could, by chance, turn the thing on and drink the water. They were very specific. He can't house anybody next door in the cells. I had a way to shut all the water off.
So where are they going?
I don't even know, I assume they're. Well, you know, when I talked to Matt Hoare that night, we were doing all that, they really don't keep people. He said, if there's some program through the county,
Yeah,
he's like, as soon as we can get them, we send them off when we don't want them. They, you know, they have beds, they have like proper, you know.
but wait a minute, the justification for that building was we needed the cells made, correct?
Well, I think they do have to have them, right? Like, they're not holding somebody over the weekend. They're within a few hours,
They
they're
used
sending you
to.
off to somewhere else, because there's programs at higher levels, it sounds like. I don't know, but anyway.
The only thing I'm glad about is we finally tore down the old station/highway barn, which in my eyes was always the highway barn.
Yeah.
So nobody can try to shove another department in that building.
Oh, I know. It was an eyesore too.
I think you should have put everybody in that building and done all the work in this building and then moved them, but anyway. But so anyway, they have to do, because that well basically doesn't exist yet. It still has to go through the permitting.
So what's the yield? What's the yield on?
I think it ended at 11 gallons per minute. I mean, they had hydrofracking.
Oh, it's a
it was
bedrock?
It's down 400 feet.
Yeah.
It's way deep.
So are most wells. Most homeowners wells are
Mark's
far.
one's in 100 something, but anyway, so we're waiting, McClure's doing all that work, they're gonna file the final, I don't know what the name is, it's like a final thing with all the pump testing, and then DEP has 60 days to respond and another 30 for more time.
Any radon?
So we don't know, they haven't done anything yet.
I bet there's radon in the well.
They're still doing all this beginning testing, so it's likely gonna be 3 more months
Yeah.
of paperwork and processing, and then hopefully we're put this behind us, but in the meantime, we can at least flush the toilet.
Yeah.
Shout out to this contractor, UEL, they came in on a Saturday to put the line in the ground. Mike Jones came running over, wired it all up.
So
Whole bunch of
that's a
people
pretty good yield.
Came running. It was 2 gallons a minute, and then they had to hydrofrack it, now it's 11.
Yeah.
But
Well, I just look at it and
the
go.
well in this building's not down 400.
Well, I just look at it from the folks who put an elevator shaft on top of the old well.
I know, yes.
So,
We're
and
back
then
1,000 here.
they'll probably have to decommission this one at some point too, so that.
They didn't even get to it.
Part of case project.
What did this one yield, do you know?
We have no,
No
we
idea.
have no records, no nothing. I do think that's part of the problem next door when they had pressure issues. I think it was, you know,
Well, were they tapped into this well?
everything, this whole campus is on one well.
Okay.
You have to understand something then. In my lifetime, 2 Board of Health administrations ago, when the file cabinets got full, somebody got the bright idea that the way to make more room was they systematically just threw out all the perks and wells and everything from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to make room, and they were gone.
Oh.
They didn't scan them, they didn't do anything, they just threw them out.
Did scanning even exist when they did that?
No, but they just threw them out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. okay.
Just for your record, that was prior to Missy's.
Yeah, no, I've heard that from her too, that all these old, you know, so we had no, that was part of the problem. We had no information on this well.
Oh,
So they
tragic.
realized trying to pull that pump was a losing battle because you were just gonna rip it right out of the ground.
Yeah.
So it probably will have to be, I mean, I assume you can still grout it with the pump, at least seal the pump and so it's better than it is, because I'm sure there's mercury in that pump.
Just pour concrete down the damn thing.
From what that's what they do, it's grout. From what I understand,
That's what
what
they
they
do, is fill the
that
concrete.
likely is the original well pump. That well was probably done in the 60s. The pressure tank was original, or maybe even earlier, 50s. It's on steel pipe. I don't know when they stopped doing that.
Oh, my God.
Prior to that, the faucet in town hall was the community faucet. And people who had shallow wells would come in the summer and load up for their house at the faucet on the side. of the
Oh,
wall.
I
because
know.
it's deep and the water quality.
Because I come in one day and somebody's filling up from the hose. I'm like, what the heck? It's, oh, somebody told me this. I'm like, you know what? Forget, like, whatever.
You had
You're probably having a worse day than I am, but like.
all the original wells in town
Okay.
were shallow. It's like everybody in North Avenue had shallow wells when they hit water that was in.
Yeah.
And if they ran dry on a bad summer,
Yeah.
they would always come down here, and there used to be the standpipe that they finally got rid of back there.
And just fill buckets.
And you just go fill buckets, take them up to your house and use them.
Oh, my God. Wow.
And eventually people had to drill them well.
Well, I think that fire well, that was the well
That was the well.
that they filled in. It was like an old cistern.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, it used to have a pump on it. The fire trucks would fill up there, and people would just come down and fill up.
But we should, so it should be all set. McClure, we had a joint meeting with McClure and Whitewater. McClure's doing everything, and basically they're gonna
Who's the
turn.
brother, well driller?
They're an engineering firm that, so when this first started, we went out to bid.
Yeah.
Whitewater bid on it, and McClure has been doing stuff for the schools, they're like a small engineering firm, they do a lot of water
So
stuff.
McClure designed everything.
So they handled this project because they were the low bidder.
Yeah.
So they're gonna turn over a permitted well to Whitewater. So they're gonna carry it through, do all the preliminary testing.
Well, they're gonna turn it over to the town.
Well, yeah,
And
in terms of
Whitewater-
the processing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Certified.
yeah, Whitewater's a GC on the job.
Right, because we had a whole conversation to make sure, because like we have a sample schedule. So the question for like DEP is like, you know, are we still taking PFAS every month? It's not the same water, so we had to make sure we're not gonna get it on violation, but they worked that all out.
Yeah, it makes it because of source.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
just,
just our luck, we'll get rid of PFAS in one rate.
I just think we have,
Do we have radon in water here a lot?
Yep.
I had it in my basement.
You
but-
got it, you got it from like granite wells.
Yeah, no, but does it come up in this area?
comes up out of ground.
Yeah. Usually with the bedrock, no, it-
If you look at most new houses, you'll find the radon remediation is shown on the house plans.
Yeah.
Like every new building built in Holliston, every new home,
it's a requirement now, yeah.
it's required.
Yeah,
And as I go around and measure the houses, I mean, you go in the basement, you can see the thing coming up, and you can see the traps and everything, and know what they are. I was telling.
Yeah, I think
Don't go near the, don't breathe that in.
Yeah.
I think I know my house has all the plumbing, ventilation for it.
Yes.
We don't have the back because the levels didn't register.
No, but it's automatically built in now.
But it's built in, yeah.
Right, because when they figured just by drilling, digging down to do your foundation, you're gonna bring it up.
Yeah, right.
And then where you live, that entire thing was blasted out of creation.
Oh, there's so much ledge there, yeah.
Right, so
It's
I
still
mean,
blasted.
you're guaranteed
Yeah, we got
to
radon.
hit it.
Yeah. We got a deep well over there too. We've done about 400 feet.
Well, the idea of digging deep wells came about for a very simple reason. They want you to have a well now that's a minimum of 400 to 600 feet. Because what happens is while you and your wife and kids are out of the house all day long, that fills up to a certain level. Then you come home in the afternoon, do dishes, take
Draw it
showers,
down, right.
do all that, you draw it down, and overnight it comes back up.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, when everybody takes a shower, I got this, the well guy one day, I said, why are all the wells down between 300 and 600 feet? And he says, you want the standpipe capacity. That's why they're all cased down that deep.
Yeah.
Used to be a case like 50 feet, and you drop the pump in. The pumps are only down 7,500 feet. Well, what they want is that casing to fill up during the day and at night when nobody's in the house.
Yeah,
And that way, you're not pumping out of the aquifer so much, it's rising up naturally.
right, yeah. And the water quality down there too, because you could get the,
When you suck it
different
out,
layers, combining layers. and
right,
stuff
but
like that.
when you suck it out and constantly you're pulling it up
Yeah,
with a, you know, the pipe isn't filled, you're drawing.
yeah, you got a
Everybody in the
much
neighborhood.
larger column and you're pulling it.
And everybody in the neighborhood's pulling at the same time frame, like, you know, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, everybody's pulling it.
Yeah.
And you create turbulence down the aquifers, and you don't know what you bring up.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way it was explained to me,
No, that's exactly right too, yeah.
was they don't want to do that now. That's the modern practices.
Yeah.
And it's also less intense use of a pump.
I'll never see that down there. Oh, what nobody.
I'm thinking of throwing a well. If we stay in the house,
Yeah.
we're either,
Oh, Kev, you know all kinds of water where you're at.
we're,
Especially you got so much, all that backland.
Kev, you get 30 gallons a minute anyways. not
well,
domestic.
we're either, expanding the house or moving. Cause I'll
It's
get
probably-
married next year.
Because it's probably all gravel down there too. And it's gravel, it's all good transmissive materials that draw water in.
Well, I figured with the Charles River back there, all I gotta do is go down to that level and I'm gonna hit it.
No.
Well, they all they all had hand dug farm wells.
I
think,
know I
5%
do a
water.
shallow well.
That was only, you love to think of the history, so there's definitely
Yeah.
water.
If you do a well, you want to go at least 100 feet.
It was all the farmland. And then.
Well, we're looking at a 9-acre parcel in, northern Connecticut on Saturday.
any wastewater upstream from where you're at, facilities that discharge?
Milford Plant is a mile upstream, but Milford is dumping. Here's one that'll get you as a water guy. The regulations for the sewer plant say that water has to be pure than what you sell to your customers.
I know it does, yeah. Yeah, they've got what's
So
called.
there's between 2 and 3
Gibby's
million,
permit.
there is
And you
between
take
2
that
and 3
effluent out of the
million
wastewater
gallons.
treatment plant.
Right,
Yeah, it's super clear.
there is between 2 to 3 million gallons on average a day
Yeah.
of crystal clear water being pumped into the Charles, 1 mile above me.
But the
coming
thing is,
down right
though,
behind me.
all that sediment on the bottom of the Charles, back before they came up with the
And then in the high rains though,
Clean Water Trust Act, the Clean Water, when we dump it pretty much raw surge into these rivers, and Charles River was no exemptions to the rule way back when.
right, but what's
Yeah,
interesting
well,
is because of the cross connections with the road drainage.
Yeah.
That they've been working on the I&I for 10 years in Milford.
Yeah.
On a really bad, intense rainy day, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what you had yesterday.
Yeah.
They would have had 10,000 gallons of, we don't know what the quality is, going right into the river.
Right, yeah.
Because,
Because they had a combined system.
well, they can handle 10 million gallons a day out of that plant. The average flow is 2 to 3 million. When the storm sewers, the non-sanitary sewers that are still connected go, to their credit, I mean, they've done $200,000-300,000 a year for the last 10 years of relining the sewer pipes, replacing them,
Yeah, knocking on.
finding the cross connections and sealing them out.
Yeah.
They don't have as much I&I as they used to have.
Because you figure, because, your sewer rates are based on your outflow out of the plant.
Well, I know,
And during a major
I
rain
know
event,
John
have
Maini-
that, if they
I know
have that
John
outflow of
Maini-
rainwater,
Yeah, I know John Maini, the superintendent of the plant. I know his son better than him.
Yeah.
Who's his deputy, because it's Milford.
yeah.
And John Junior was telling me, I mean, even a high storm thing, they don't even hit 4 million gallons now.
Oh, that's great. That's
I
great.
mean, he knocked out like 6 million gallons of high storm water.
Yeah, you go to, some of these big old cities where they've got, brick manholes and old,
Well, they still
old
have,
clay pipe.
they still have clay pipe, which is.
Yeah, clay pipe and all the thing is with the old clay pipe joints, all the joints leak, those brick
Well,
manholes.
there's a company in Charlton called In Situ Form,
I've heard of it, yeah.
and do you know what they do?
Yeah, it's like a gel. They pump it out there.
They pump it through the pipes and it seals with a white
Yeah.
film, and all those joints are now outside.
Yeah,
The
it works
form.
great. I've seen it, yeah. We've done that.
And they did a couple of,
It turns out that I grew up in Omaha.
Yeah.
And Omaha was hired somebody to cement a whole bunch of the water pipes.
Yeah.
In 1950. And Greater Boston, then the MWRA.
Yeah.
MWRA.
Oh, what
And
NBC back.
NBC back then.
NBC, yeah.
Did this to a lot of the major water mains and sewer mains between 1985 and 1995. And including putting a 60-inch pipe down the middle of the Charles River.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, remember how you told us they were looking for communities to join?
I was just talking to NWA about that.
There was an
I mean,
article,
yeah,
there was
I
an
meet with
article
the
in the
NWA
Globe
every week.
2 weeks ago, they're adding 30 North Shore communities in Boston.
There's 3 studies going on right now.
It was in that these guys want to join, and
Yeah.
February wants them, I remember what you said, about they're trying to spread the cost around.
Right. Yeah, well, here's the thing with the MWRA. The Quabbin Reservoir has got a capacity of about 300 million gallons per day.
Yep.
And so back in the 70s, the 80s, it was near capacity. Back when it was NBC. A guy named Paul Levy took over the NBC.
I remember Paul Ver,
Remember Paul Levy, yeah? And went way up on the rates on everybody, and everybody was screaming about the water rates. One of the reasons why it went way up on the rates was they knew they had major problems within the infrastructure. They had to go back and do a lot of repair work. On the water side, you had all kinds of leaks everywhere. Yeah, they ran a new aqueduct in some locations, and crap like that. They were so efficient in what they did, that they knocked the capacity down, or they knocked the demand from 300 million gallons per day down to 200 million gallons per day. So now they've got this extra 100 million gallons per day. And so one of the things that they're looking to do with this study is we've got all this capacity. we can sell some more water, and that's what they're doing. They don't want to sell off the whole 100 million gallons that they've got
No,
left.
there was,
They want to sell off about 50, 60 million gallons per day capacity. So I'm part of this Metro West study that's going on right now. I'm where I'm at in Sudbury. Sudbury is a pretty water-rich town. But towns north of us, like Concord, Acton, and Maine, they're begging for the NWA to run something up through. And so the town of Sudbury is kind of a gateway because they're looking at one of the rail corridors that run this. They're talking about a 4-foot diameter pipe, not quite as big as some of these other ones they run through, but just enough to provide everybody water. And it's funny, Sudbury's a little snob town too. They're like, oh, we don't want this thing, blah, blah, blah. I had a big meeting with the selectmen and the town manager last week. I'm like,
Was he,
I'm like, I says, you're right, Sudbury's a pretty water-rich town. I says, but God forbid, if we ever had a tank truck go down and spill oil or some contamination and it just, contaminated a well field, I said, we'd lose half the town's water supply. And I said, and if we don't have, I says, that's one of the benefits of having an NWRA connection. If, God forbid, if we ever had
you
it.
don't need until you do. You don't put it on until you do.
Right.
It's like the interconnection.
And I know from experience, Kev, that happened to me. I was a water sewer superintendent for the town of Needham. We had one well was right next to the Charles River, 3 million gallons per day was run out of this well. Well, we're doing a well redevelopment and the well collapsed. The well screen collapsed and also we could use the well. 3 million gallons per day, we could, also we just take it off. It was a source of water for us. The only thing that saved us was we had the MWRA. We had a contract with the NWRA. We had a pump station. We could draw up to 12 million gallons per day.
But in my,
Supplement our demand.
I know Milford has a connection to Bellingham, Hopkinton. Every town they above, they have a connection to. They're not using them, but they're there.
Right. And I asked
And
him,
the new guys,
yeah,
basically, the new board, after they voted a year ago, went, and one of their 3 top priorities was give us the status of all of them, and let's make sure they're all up to date, the agreements are up to date,
right.
the equipment's up to date, so they're in working functional order and not used like once and abandoned for 20 years.
Right, yeah.
And they know the status of each of them, they have fresh agreements, just in case.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
And don't forget, when Hopedale went offline 2 summers ago for a day, Milford turned right on.
Yeah. With their
They
interconnection.
opened up the pipe on 140 and Milford supplied it.
So the NWRA, the town of Hopkinton is looking to connect onto the NWRA. Not a direct connection. It's gonna be through Framingham.
Right.
Because I had asked, the woman that I'm working with at the NWRA, Becky Weedman. And I said, Becky, I said, just so you know, I'm Commissioner Henry Mendon. I said,
They came down.
we've got it. And she says, where's Bendon?
The nearest connection.
I
they
says,
have-
Bendon's right on the other side of Milford. She says, oh, yeah.
The nearest connection they have is Ashland.
Yeah, right.
If
And I says,
Ashland could punch through to any of the towns around here,
I says,
if Hopkinton connected,
Mendon would love to have a connection with the NWRA, but the thing is so tiny. It's so tiny and it's not much of a demand out here.
Right, but there's future demand.
Because they're looking at,
well,
the NWRA wants to provide water to, communities,
Right.
30,000+ people.
yeah, but what I would argue is if you
This is
build
gonna
it,
be
they
worth their
will
money.
come. Because we have businesses looking at Mendon that look at the fact there's no water.
We're screwed, yeah. We're screwed. Some people like that because they want the town to be
Well, if we got
no
sewer,
growth and they like
if we
it.
got sewer through the end of the river already, 16 would be populated with more businesses.
Oh, yeah,
And restaurants, they'll pay anything.
no question. Yeah, because you got a lot of land here, yeah.
But I mean,
We're just, Mendon's not gonna be there. Unless, if we could find our own solar.
well, that's up to the study.
Right.
To tell you the truth, it's not going to be in my lifetime.
And,
But I don't see people paying for it. And I mean, we don't have enough ARPA money.
no, they won't, but if we can get federal money, that's,
We don't have enough ARPA money.
no, not the opera money, but the infrastructure bill.
Yes, but did you hear what the Republicans announced yesterday?
No.
They're concerned about inflation. So in January, when they take over the House, this is their plan. all authorized COVID money, including the infrastructure bill, and any unallocated and unspent ARP money, they want to call it all back so it doesn't go out. And they have the votes in the House to do it.
And let's give a big task to all these friggin' hydrants.
Oh, we're gonna do that too. No, but they actually
But you
said,
got a Democrat
they
Senate.
actually said is their way to get rid of inflation is we pump too much money into the economy.
Yeah.
And all the stuff is approved, but not yet out, that's coming out like next year, the year after.
Well, yeah, because if, it.
They wanna just cut it off.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that counts. That's awful.
Yeah, McCarthy announced that yesterday.
He's a piece of shit.
They all are. My comment to the world is, if you travel overseas and you come back and you look at the infrastructure, whether it's airports, water, sewer, green energy, America is the third world country that refuses to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
We are so far behind the world.
I know we are. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going over to Switzerland in the spring with my fiance. And that's where she's from.
Yeah.
Well, her mother was.
Now, you guys don't go to Italy in December, right? That's like that.
No,
I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. I can't wait to see some of the old aqueducts over there, right? Back in the Roman days.
geez,
And they're still standing.
I'm going to Raleigh, North Carolina because as of last week, I'm a granddad.
Congratulations.
I'm sure you're aware of it. Basically, number 2 and 3 aqueducts from the MWRA goes through the north end of Framingham, just south of Sudbury.
I knew that. Yeah. Yeah, one's the Hultman, right? The Hultman Aqueduct, and I can't remember the name of the other one.
I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause
the
there were
one
two-
has a
There
name.
were, yeah, there were
There's
two.
one that goes up the old rail trail right to the treatment plant that's next to the pipe.
Yeah.
That comes from,
And in fact, the oldest.
The big lake
number
in-
1 also goes through Framingham.
Framingham.
Except it's been.
And so you know,
taken
the
over.
big lake that's in South Rural Framingham, and that connects back,
That's Sudbury Reservoir.
to, what's the one where the old church is in Worcester?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And then that
Basically,
connects
but
to Quabbin.
Right, yes.
When I was living in Framingham, the MDC in those days.
Yeah.
Kept selling water to Framingham and said, you want to join with us? And Framingham said, hell no. We'll buy water at expensive prices, but we're not going to join you.
I'm gonna make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. Still,
I'll second our
Let's see,
motion.
wait, Dave says we have an item.
so the master meters, I reached out to the 3, so I reached out, as you suggested, I reached out to EJP, and they said they don't do that kind of work, but that's the third quote. I reached
Yeah,
out,
you solicited that, you're
Yeah.
gonna document
I
it,
have that from him.
that suffices
Reached
for,
out to the other company,
that
and
suffices.
he said, I can't think of the name, hang on. What the hell is the name of that Irish guy? Fielch. They would honor the same pricing they gave us before.
Okay,
And I have not heard back from Hydrotech, but Hydrotech would still, assuming that price holds, they'd still be a little better, because I think they were 5,500 and the other company was
3
12.
months, recovered.
I do think we probably want to be a little mindful, though, make sure we truly have the funding to get this done on Dudley Road. You know, I'd be nervous about spending 10,000 on this meter right now, until we know we're gonna end in a profit. But that's basically our entire surplus would be gone, but,
I thought we bought that with the,
so we have all the parts, we just have to pay for the labor.
okay, so the 10 grand is a labor.
Right, well, so Hydrotech's quote was.
we had it, but we bought that extra material. We spent it, because remember, we had a deadline to spend all the money,
Yeah, so we spent it.
so we spent it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Hydrotech was 5,500, this other company was 11,600, which I know you said was very high.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So if Hydrotech will still honor that, you know,
55.
6,000.
Yeah,
give
go
or
away.
take, I think that's a good price.
Yeah,
We got the meter, and that'll get Dudley Road done.
yeah, and then we just got the other one that we're hoping it's gonna get done on the contracts, on the
Well, so I think-
development's done.
It sounds like the Cape Road one, we need to wait and see what happens with this big project in Hopedale, because they're gonna build a meter pit, so that's probably a year away.
Okay,
The last time I talked to Tim about it, it sounds like that's the plan there, and wait and see.
Well, what's up with our warehouse?
So I was actually at the planning board meeting, I wasn't even gonna go,
It's last
it was
week.
at night. I don't know, I gotta send him another email. I wonder, he was talking about a big tank. I wonder, they're not getting the flows that they really need to have much use of its fire time.
Yeah,
So I mean, they don't care. They're building their project. They've got it all planned out. This is just, a part of their plan. At some point, they'll come back to talk to us about their plans to redo the water
I
line.
can tell you, it's not Amazon.
So,
Neither is the one in Oakdale. Because Amazon is pulled way back on everything.
I know, yeah.
Well, he said again, they're building it on spec. What did he say the other night?
So it's the one that they just put on
Lowe's or
140.
something. He said it was just like they're gonna build it and then basically market it, for rent.
But you know what happened is Amazon sucked up everything, so there's demand now for everybody else. The one on 140 in Hopedale is built on spec.
Yeah.
The one that they put where the old nursing home got torn down. Geez, I'm dating myself. But, I was in Milford the other day saying to somebody, yeah, it's right down where the fair used to be, and they looked at me,
Oh, my God. I can. I don't have an emergency inside the ring. Hey, Teddy, what's up?
now we can adjourn,
I'm in
right?
the commissioners meeting, just so you know.
That was it.
Just next meeting date, so we can schedule that.
We're gonna do the, January 4th,
We want to meet, if we're good to wait till
January 5th.
What do you got, 39 feet now, you said?
we motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to
Oh, so you
adjourn.
could be out of there hopefully in a half an hour.
You already seconded it.
Oh, that sucks.